Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is Friday. Noodles standing by, Jamie McLennan. All of our guests today are brought to you by Langley Chrysler. Enjoy no-hassle 3-day returns and 30-day exchanges, Rick, on all used vehicles. So you can make sure what you get is just right for you. Don't just love your car. There's an image. Love buying it at langleychrysler.com. Every time I read that, I think of Strange Addictions. Maybe I should stop doing that. What do you think? Or stop mentioning that. I think of that. Noodles joining us now from TSN. Jamie McLennan, how are you, sir?
Not too bad. How are you guys doing today?
Very, very well. What do you know of Spencer Martin?
Not that much. I wish I knew more. Obviously, backstory, where he came from as being, drafted by Colorado and kind of just making his way up. But watching that game the other night against the Edmonton Oilers, it was impressive because, everything about his game, he looked like a 5-year vet as far as at the NHL level. I thought he handled the puck well. I thought his demeanor in the net was really strong. When the Oilers continued to push, and I know, not everyone puts a lot of stock into analytics, but, if you follow Mike Kelly on Twitter, and I obviously follow SportLogic stats, I believe they had 29 slot shots that night, which is, a high for the season. So they created a lot of looks. And Martin, worst case scenario, he got them a point, which, the Vancouver Canucks, if you believe it, they're right in the thick of things. That might be a huge point at the end of the season. But he's been really good since given an opportunity. And sometimes it's just, especially early on when you get an opportunity, your first 5 or 6 games, you can get on a roll. You're playing on emotion. You're playing kind of on that high of being given an opportunity. And he seized it so far, and he rolled it into last night as well.
He has talked, and people who know him have talked about the work he does in the summer with Tyler Seguin, Taylor Hall, Binnington, a long list. How important are those summer months for any hockey player?
They're huge because if you skate, and I had the luxury growing up in St. Albert, Alberta, when I go back to the Edmonton area in the summers, there's a lot of Edmonton area NHL players. So there's good ice. It's not about just, staying in shape and maybe trying a few things out. It's you're skating with good players. They're going to drag you up to their level. You're going to see things that you probably haven't seen before because you've got the best players in the world, and you have the luxury of seeing them up close and personal. They're using you for, I'm saying, Spencer or myself, as things to try on the ice. But you're seeing some of the tendencies, the quickness, the hands, the thought process behind it. So you're getting almost a training on the job. And when you skate with players like that, it is good because you can rely on or draw on your experience to go, okay, I've seen this play. I've seen a creative player and how he wants to, or what he thinks he's going to do coming out of the corner on a certain play. So it does help for the confidence, and you draw back on the muscle memory that you create in the summer.
Can you understand why the Oilers would take a chance on Evander Kane?
From the talent stat, like the hockey player, yeah. I mean, you look at, I was just actually, before I came on, I was doing like an Oilers depth chart.
Beautiful. Look at nice homework. Yeah.
Very good writing. Very clean. That's
if we had a Zoom camera, it would help.
That's a solid GED right there,
That's
guys.
Good.
On display from
very 2022.
But I'm just looking at, listen, there's a lot of noise around Evander. We all know that. You're not ignoring that. But if you're just looking at trying to build a team that has a little bit more depth, it wasn't long ago, because the Oilers have won 3 in a row, that we were talking it was an absolute tire fire and train wreck there. They were missing RNH, missing Hyman. That's 2 of their top 4 players. And McDavid and Draisaitl looked drained. They looked tired. They couldn't get a save. I mean, you know the storyline. All of a sudden, RNH comes back, Hyman comes back, and you start to, if everyone's healthy, you start to slot guys a little bit more to what they're capable of. And I look at a guy like Fogle. Fogel's, I think, a really good left winger, but in a top 9 scenario. So now you're not asking. If you've got Kane, Hyman, and Fogle, your left wing looks a lot more, kind of what it should look like. And then down the middle, you can have the luxury of having McDavid, Draisaitl, and RNH. And your right side, with Puljujärvi, Yamamoto, and Kassian, regardless of what you feel about Zach Kassian, I think he'd be slotted better in a top 9 scenario. You guys know him from Vancouver. I think he's a really, there's nights where you're like, man, this guy is unbelievable. And there's other nights where you're like, nah, he's not seeing the game real well, put it that way. So, and then you throw in a kid like Ryan McLeod and Sevier and Derek Ryan and Perlini, Devin Shore. That's, you can mix or match on that fourth line, but all of a sudden you look at depth. So if you're asking me, it's a long roundabout answer.
Yeah.
I can see why they took the chance, because you're just looking at Evander Kane, the 30-goal scorer, the 6'2", 6'3" guy who can drop the gloves, kind of a unique player. That's from the hockey side.
Okay, Jamie, I don't know if you want to get into this. Tell me if you don't. But during Evander Kane's interview yesterday with TSN, he made it very clear that he is angry with what your radio partner, Jeff O'Neill, had to say about him. Just your reaction to that, and I don't know, maybe you know what Jeff O'Neill's reaction was to that.
Honestly, I should know more about it. I don't. It kind of caught me off guard, but ultimately what I would say is that, I hope that everyone in a scenario, a guy like Evander, should just, if he's getting an opportunity, seize it. Mm-hmm. That nobody's perfect. And I think if it's him that he's upset about something, I think if you look at the whole big picture, he's looking to repair, I guess, his professional image. Let's just call it that, because there's, you've had opportunities in San Jose and Buffalo and Winnipeg. He's a fantastic player. Outside of that, I think if you're upset at certain things, that can be sorted out on the side. I to be honest, I don't really have too much to say about it, other than the fact that it's just I wish him the best. I do. I don't wish ill on anybody, and I hope that he can get his professional situation sorted out, and then, that spills into life.
Jamie, back to the Canucks. Mike DiPietro had a start recently, loud 1 week goal, but he's still young. Patience is something. It doesn't matter what level at hockey. No one has patience. Your thoughts on his development curve, Michael DiPietro?
I love him as a player. I've actually just only had the luxury of kind of chatting with him through direct messages on Twitter and stuff. I think there's a big upside there. Unfortunately, and I use the word unfortunately probably unfairly, it's just when your progression comes, there's bumps in the road. You get placed in situations maybe where, the team, let's be honest, the Canucks have had so many obstacles to deal with this year, as everyone else, with COVID and injuries and inconsistencies and stuff. But if you get force-fed into a situation and maybe you're not playing well, or the team isn't in front of you, it's a tough scenario. And honestly, I think he's going to be an everyday NHL goaltender, but it takes time. And I say this, and I don't want to get too long-winded on it, but when you draft somebody, especially a goaltender, where you're seeing now goaltenders get really good at 26, 27, 28, as they get more physically and mentally mature, what happens is if you draft a young goaltender in your organization, I really think you're honestly looking at 3 contract periods before the player really kind of gets into his comfort zone. So that's 25 years old. He's 26. So sometimes you don't have the patience with a young goaltender where you're like, man, he's been with us for 3-4 years. Why hasn't he arrived? Well, it's not a scenario where you can protect him. If you're a 18 or 19-year-old winger, you can hide him with zone starts. You can make sure that he's protected and play, take some of the minutes away. With a young player, or especially a goaltender, it's like, go sink or swim, go play. And it doesn't matter what's happening right now. So I always want to be, and then just because maybe I have a soft spot for Mikey, I want to be very patient with him, because I think there's a tremendous upside, but there's a process here.
Very quickly, and you're here. We want to talk goaltenders. Henrik Lundqvist gets his number 30 retired by the New York Rangers today. Has there ever been anyone who has been a more perfect fit for a city than Henrik Lundqvist in New York City?
Yeah, I mean, I always try and joke and say, like, the king is a nickname. He wasn't the king of New York, but honestly, he really was. Like, if you look at it, because the good-looking gentleman plays guitar. I mean, he's on all the shows playing guitar, and he's a rock star of a goaltender. So if you lay it out that way, Don, like, I think you're right. There probably was a perfect marriage between a city that was very demanding in that position, and he's been brilliant for what we'll just say 15 years. And the crazy part about this is there are organizations that are dying for stability and net. The New York Rangers are going to go from 15 years of Henrik Lundqvist to potentially 15 years of Shesterkin, who I think is unbelievable. You could have a 30-year period. That's Favre into Rodgers. That's what you're talking about, potentially. And, if Shesterkin continues on with, where we think he's going. But Henrik Lundqvist was a perfect fit for New York, just the flash and dash. He's a good-looking guy, well-spoken, very well liked. It's a perfect marriage that worked out for them for years.
Yeah, I think both sides got each other like rarely in NHL history. Jamie, thanks for this. We get you. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks for having me, guys.